When and where the Ming Dynasty lasted for nearly 3 centuries, taking place in China between 1368 and 1644 AD, the dynasty was founded by Zhu Yuanzhang, later took the title Emperor Hongwu. And he did so after defeating the Mongols who had ruled much of China under the Yuan dynasty. So the Mongols were forced out, and the Ming took back control of China. Now let's get into the juicy details of this glorious era. The founding story. So our hero, Zhu Yuanzhang, wasn't born into royalty or even wealth. He was actually born into poverty around 1280. As a young man, he worked as a farmhand. But when his village was hit by famine, he turned to Buddhism and became a monk. But that didn't last long because soon after, in 1352, he joined a rebel group fighting against the Yuan rulers. And guess what? He won. So he became the first emperor of the Ming Dynasty. But why was the Ming Dynasty so amazing? Let's find out. Major achievements: the Ming built their capital at Nanjing at first, but later moved it to Beijing. Now here are some impressive facts about them. The Great Wall of China. You all know about the Great Wall, right? It's one of the world's most famous landmarks. Well, the Ming Dynasty rebuilt and expanded it. Before the Ming, several other Chinese states had already started building walls to keep enemies out. But the Ming made it super long, over 13,000 miles long. They used bricks instead of just rocks and wood. And they made watchtowers and defense buildings along the wall. Their hard work made the wall stronger, and it stayed that way for hundreds of years. Forbidden City. This was the imperial palace where the emperors lived in Beijing. The Ming emperors wanted to show off their power and wealth, so they built a huge palace complex with many buildings, courtyards, and gardens. Only the emperor and his family could live there. Commoners couldn't enter. They built it in the 15th century. It took 14 years to finish. They used fancy materials like white marble, rare stones, and colorful tiles. Inside, there were offices for the emperor's staff and places for ceremonies and parties. Civil service exam. In ancient China, having educated officials helped keep order and run the government. So the Ming Dynasty reinforced the Confucian bureaucracy by creating a civil service exam. This exam tested people's knowledge of Confucian teachings, history, and literature. Those who passed became officials. It was a fair way to get a government job based on skills and knowledge rather than connections or money. Zheng He's voyages. Admiral Zheng He was a Muslim eunuch who commanded huge fleets of ships on massive diplomatic and trading voyages across the Indian Ocean. His fleet reached East Africa, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia, with up to 300 ships and 30,000 sailors. His fleet was larger than any European navy until the 16th century. These voyages happened before Columbus reached the Americas, and they showed the world China's power on the seas. Zheng He's voyages stopped after he died around 1433. Some say the Chinese emperor got jealous of Zheng He's fame and wanted to limit his power. Others say the voyages were too expensive. Whatever the reason, after Zheng He, China focused more on its own affairs and less on exploring faraway lands. Major achievements continued: blue and white porcelain. Porcelain is a type of thin, strong, beautiful pottery. During the Ming Dynasty, Chinese potters created a new style of porcelain that became famous around the world. They painted blue designs on white porcelain, and it looked stunning. Many pieces had Chinese landscapes, flowers, or everyday items. These blue and white porcelain pieces are still loved today, and you can find them in museums and private collections all over the world. Woodblock printing. Qing in China began during the Han Dynasty with woodblocks. You know those big blocks of wood with raised pictures or letters? They carved these designs into woodblocks and used them to make multiple copies of texts or images. This technique became even more popular during the Ming Dynasty. Artists and writers used it to create things like picture books and novels. 2 famous Ming novels, Journey to the West and Romance of the Three Kingdoms, were printed using this method. By the end of the Ming Dynasty, China had more books than any other country, population, and cities. The Ming Dynasty was a great time for China. People felt proud of being Chinese, and many scholars and artists lived during this era. Because of this, the population grew fast, especially in cities. Cities became bigger and more lively during the Ming Dynasty. And now for the not-so-great part, the downfall. So why did such a powerful dynasty fall? Well, the answer's complicated, just like most history stuff. There were several reasons that led to the end of the Ming Dynasty. Corruption. As the dynasty went on, some government officials became greedy and only cared about themselves. They took bribes and didn't do their jobs well. This made people angry, and they wanted change. Weak emperors. Sadly, some Ming emperors weren't strong leaders. They spent too much money on parties and didn't care about serious issues. This made the government less effective, and people suffered. Peasant revolts. Because of bad harvests and high taxes, farmers had a hard time. Many times they had to take loans with high interest, and that put them in big debt. When the government didn't help them, angry farmers rebelled, trying to change how things were done. Natural disasters. During the Ming Dynasty, there were terrible floods and one huge earthquake. These disasters made people's lives hard, and sometimes they lasted for years. It was hard for the government to help everyone affected by these disasters. Manchu invaders. A group of people called the Manchus from the northeast invaded China. They were good fighters and eventually took over the Ming capital. The last Ming emperor gave up in 1644, and the Manchurians started their own dynasty. The Qing legacy. Despite its problems, the Ming Dynasty is still seen as one of China's best and most stable times. Here's what they left behind. Great influence. The Ming Dynasty had a big impact on East Asian culture. Art, literature, and ideas spread from China to Korea and Japan. This made many famous works and inventions known throughout East Asia. Trade and exploration. During the Ming, China traded with many countries from Africa to Europe. It traded things like silk, porcelain, and spices. This global trade brought in lots of money and goods to China. Architecture and art. The Ming left behind many amazing buildings and art pieces. For example, the Temple of Heaven in Beijing, which was used for special ceremonies. Also, many Chinese gardens from this time still exist and are admired for their beauty. Chinese pride. Even after the Ming Dynasty ended, people still think of it as a golden age for China. The word Ming means bright or brilliant in Chinese. So the Ming Dynasty is a reminder of a time when China was powerful and influential. The Ming left a lasting mark on history, and their achievements are still studied and admired today. That's a wrap on the Ming Dynasty. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more amazing history content. Thanks for watching. See you next time.